Hi. So I did a few different things for the inquiry experience. I went to the Put Your Shoulder to the Wheel website, and I chose a few different activities from that list. The first one I chose was, sorry, I lost my train of thought. The first one that I chose was reading those scriptures and pondering them. I also watched the documentary, the untold story of blacks in the Mormon Church. Um, and then I also talked with my dad, who was alive when the Declaration 2 came out. So, expectations I had before the activity. Honestly, I was just kind of expecting to have a better understanding of blacks in the priesthood and the history of the church when it comes to African Americans. I've learned about it in the past, and it got brought up on my mission a few times. So I was just really expecting to have a deeper understanding of this topic. But one thing that surprised me, I don't know why I never thought about this, but when I was watching the documentary, it talked about how Jane James, I believe is her last name, Jane Manning James, or Jane, and other African American women in the church couldn't go through the temple to receive their initiatories and their endowments. And I guess when as a church we talk about blacks and the priesthood, it's just blacks and the priesthood. So then you obviously just think of men. I never thought about the women's implications as far as their membership and the fact that they were denied temple blessings while they were living here on earth for that time. And that made me really sad, honestly. And it made me sad that I never thought about it or realized it either, because it hasn't had a huge effect on me personally. So the experience reinforced my core beliefs. My core beliefs being that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is just that. It's Jesus Christ Church. It's based on Revelation. Based on the rock of Revelation, right? And all of the things that we were learning about, the revelation that blacks could not have the priesthood for that time, and then that they could. It's based on Revelation. It's testifying and trying our faith to see, do we really believe that this is God's church and God's the one directing this action, or do we believe that it's the members of the church and they're the ones making and calling the shots? And I believe that it's God. God is the director of the church, and he's doing everything he can for the benefit of all of his children, not just for a few specific groups of his children, but really for the benefit of all of his children. So one thing that was interesting to me, or important to me, that I learned just in my discussion with my dad, just about so the documentary talks about different beliefs that people would give as far as why blacks couldn't have the priesthood. And some were like, well, they're cursed, like they're born cursed, but that contradicts the doctrine that we believe that men are punished for their own sins and not for Adam's transgressions, not for their parents' transgressions, in the sense that they're not born with sin. So it was interesting to hear the different reasons that people give for why during that period blacks couldn't have the priesthood. As I had that discussion with my dad, hearing how it affected him, and he served his mission in the South, which is predominantly black, just a few years after, 10 years after that, the Declaration came out. He said it wasn't that big of a deal at the time, and that it really came down to whether they believed in Christ and his gospel over the fact that did they just see the church as a racist church or not. So I thought that was interesting. And as I was talking with him, he talks about how throughout history there's been different groups who have been denied the blessings of the priesthood. Like Noah's son Ham was denied the blessings of the priesthood. because of his disobedience, and that he had broke off and married Egyptus, and they started their own thing. They tried to have their own priesthood. It also made me think of, like, on my mission there were a lot of Muslims that we taught. There were a lot of people from the Middle East, and there were several people who wanted to be baptized but couldn't be because they would have to have permission from the first presidency saying that it was okay for them to be baptized, because if they were ever to go back to their homeland, they could be killed for being a Christian. And so in that sense, there's still blessings denied, I guess, of people of different ethnicities, because that's the will of God at this time. And I think it was interesting for me to see from so many different people's perspectives and to try and think of what it would be like as a Native Americans too, I guess, but as a Black person during the time of the church when we couldn't, well, if I was a Black person, we couldn't have the blessings of the temple or the blessings of the priesthood, and how difficult that would be. But there were still people who chose to believe and chose to be active members of the church who were Black because their faith was centered on Christ. Okay, I'm going to move on. I could probably talk for another couple minutes, but I don't think anyone really wants to watch that much, so I'm sorry. This learning will impact my relationship with future students in the sense of helping me see children as, well, my future students, as more than just their individual, but understanding that they come from a rich heritage and that their ancestors have gone through various obstacles and overcome various challenges, irregardless of what race or nationality they are. Every person, every ethnicity group, every race has had to overcome some struggle, some trial, and being able to help embrace that child's culture and that child's ethnicity and race and all that brings with it, taking all the good from all the students and creating a diverse and celebrating culture type classroom. I think that's a very important thing and something I'm going to strive to do. Yep.